She already did a great introduction. I won't spend too much time talking about my background. Just a quick overview of the companies and places I have been to. If you have wondered and curious about it, yes, all the logos are blue. It just gets darker and darker over time. And so I can guarantee you it's not by design. Back to the business. So if you haven't been to Yale before, let me share with you some photos. This is the Yale School of Medicine. This is the front side of it. And there are a lot of amazing libraries on campus and famous ones are staring. You can see the front side of it. And I think the campus is beautiful throughout the year, but particularly in fall, it's a breathtaking fascination. Anyone, if you have an opportunity to visit or would like to come and give a talk, just you're welcome. And so today, my understanding is I will give a brief introduction of the center. I won't dive into details, but if you have any particular questions about specific area, please feel free to reach out to me afterwards. So what do we do here? I'm pretty sure everyone is quite familiar with the different aspects of the data science, the data storage, data management, analysis, and all these areas of the data science. In particular, biomedical data science is a sub-area of data science, and it's an interdisciplinary field that encompasses how we're gonna leverage the biomedical data, information, and knowledge for better decision-making, problem solving. And the ultimate goal is to improve the human health and well-being. So with that, I often got asked a question about the scope of biomedical data science. I like to refer to this great paper by JAMA. I think it has a quite a straightforward way to categorize things and very easy to remember and understand. So on the left-hand side, from the very bottom, I like to see the molecular level, which is a typical areas we talk about in the chemoinformatics. And going one level up, we're talking about the cells, the proteins, and the omics data. That's the typical bioinformatics area. And going up another level, we're talking about the organs and tissues, and that's the typical biomedical imaging area. We see the CTs, MRIs, and the ultrasound imaging, and the huge field of informatics where computational skills can really advance the field. And going up another level, that's the individual. That's what we talk about, the electronic health record, the personal health record, things the digital health can really collect and benefit the large majority of the patients. So that's the medical system or clinical information system you see in major hospitals and medical centers. And going up another level, particularly during the pandemic time, we see the population data being used for public health surveillance and informatics. So I like this kind of a categories, and pretty much data science technologies can be applied to each individual area we just mentioned. Later on, I will introduce some faculty members in the center by this sort of a structure. When it comes to biomedical data, there are two major drivers, and particularly one is about individual data type. As we mentioned, there are so many kinds of data type, but for any particular data type, we care about how to make it scalable. And then we also care about how to integrate the different kinds of data, as we mentioned before, data from the health record, data from imaging, data from genomics and wearables, and how do we put them together and make sense and be able to do proper reasoning and inferencing. So I'd like to quickly go over some important V's. I'm sure many of you are quite familiar with them. And one V is the volume, talking about the data, biomedical data. I don't know how many people still remember the old days of DVDs and how big a DVD can hold. If it's in person, I'll ask you to raise your hand, but old DVD can only take up to, I think it's 200 gigabytes, right? Then 1 terabyte is 1,000 gigabyte, and just throughout our lifetime, we're talking about more than 200,000 of the DVDs just about your data. And if we dive into the different categories of the data, when we talk about medical records and the hospital records, that only takes about 10% of what we're talking about. The genomic data is about 30%, but a large majority of the data actually are coming from exogenous sources. When we talk about that, we mean the environmental sensors, the wearables, and all these things we think are, traditionally may or may not be related to your health record, but they all play an important role in your overall well-being. So large amount of data we're talking about for sure. And another important V is the variety. We touched on this previously. In any typical hospital visit, you're talking about lab results, imaging and pharmacy and pathology report, and all these electronic health records now together with genomic data, we can integrate them together in the form of a data lake. And some of them are structured, some of them are just natural language, unstructured, some of them are scanned images. Huge challenge over there. And with pandemics and the remote monitoring and telehealth, we expect there will be more and more different kinds of the data coming in to play for the future. And another important V I like to mention is the veracity. So how reliable, when we talk about large amount of data from all kinds of sources, how reliable, how accurate, how many missing data issues we have to deal with. With that, I'd like to refer to an old quote, all medical record information should be regarded as suspect, much of it fiction. People laugh about this, but unfortunately, I'm afraid to say, even to this day, there's still truth to this statement. We can't completely rely on what we see, what we gather, what we collect. So, and the last but not least, another V is velocity. While we're speaking, I'm trying to, the illustration is trying to show you the speed of the data coming through different sensors and wearables and all sorts of new technologies these days. We're able to gather data. This is different from traditional way of doing data. We have to keep in mind the time aspect, how to deal with a longitudinal patient record and health record and biomedical research data. So with all these challenges in mind, I remember there's a famous quote from a professor from Duke University, Dan Ariely, talking about big data is like teenage dating. Everyone talks about it. Nobody really knows how to do it. Everyone thinks everyone else is doing it, so everyone claims they are doing it. It's been the case that, but we're doing it for sure. And I know you're doing it, so we're doing it for real. But it's just to put all the jokes aside, I think this is such an important topic and so many challenging topics for us to tackle on. So really need everyone to be on board. And a brief introduction to what's going on at the Yale Center for Biomedical Data Science. We aim to really establish an open and collaborative environment and platform for people with different backgrounds, the principal investigators, the trainees, the students and staff all get together and leverage their expertise in various biomedical data science fields, and from both the basic biological research to clinical investigation. We like to facilitate and foster the interaction across the campus. So on one hand, we will aim to be the liaison between the School of Medicine and the rest of the campus. On the other hand, we also like to be the bridge between the university and the health system, the hospitals, and the local ecosystem as well. So in some way, the center is more like a center of the center. We support the entire School of Medicine, entire School of Public Health, School of Nursing, and we also interact closely with Department of Computer Science, Statistics and Data Science and Bioengineering, and you name it, any department with a strong computational background, we would like to interact closely with. So there are three main pillars as our primary focus right now. Number one is people. The aim is to have the next generation of leaders through different training programs, educational activities and workshops and seminars, events. And we have fellowships and internships, short courses, long courses, degree programs, and so on and so forth. I will share in a little bit more details in the next couple of slides. And also the research programs, as I said, with the center's help, we would like to take the data into information, into actionable knowledge and sustainable, which can lead to some sustainable results in the long-term patient care and human well-being. We would also like to contribute to the translational medicine by linking the genotype and the phenotype together. And what we learn from the good practice in the bench side in the lab, we would like to take it to the patient bedside practice. And what we know from the patient front practice, we can also bring back to the lab and improve their fundamental research. And with the hospital side, particularly in the US, we like to contribute to the paradigm shift from the sick care to healthcare and reduce the traditional fees associated with each service, and hopefully to really revolutionize and change the healthcare system to be value and outcome-based care. Again, I guess most universities will share the same goal. We like to take the theory and have a real world impact, and by analyzing real world data. So together, we also, you probably have heard of some of these programs and centers or institutes at Yale. We work with them closely. The point for the center to be a center of the center is not to compete or overlap some services they offer, but to coordinate and be a good matchmaker and find out what's missing in what department. So these are some areas that we could collaborate together. One of them, as mentioned, is the educational program and join the research, grant application, publications. If anyone is interested, we're open, we're welcome to put our heads together. Application and innovations, there are a lot of real world data science alliance. I can give you an example in a few slides. And if anyone would like to have a joint business development plan together, we'll be very happy to work. So one thing we keep in mind is the data for good. With all the sensitive health information around, we like to be HIPAA compliant and also follow any data regulation from different organizations and follow the policies they offer. So let me give you an example about the educational program we offer. This is the Yale-Boehringer Ingelheim Biomedical Data Science Fellowship Program. We launched this year, and the plan is to have it at least for 5 years. So if you're interested, feel free to visit the website. This is a jointly offered for people who already received a PhD degree in computer science or data science or statistics and anything that with a strong computational background. We're not limited to one particular major or not. For those people who like to have a 2 to 3 year postdoc fellowship, they're welcome. So this is not just open to Yale, this is actually open to anyone from anywhere who's qualified for the program. We would like to have it for 3 years. So each fellow will spend 3 years in the fellowship, and this year we offer it, and next year and the third year we offer again. So altogether, at least we will have 9 fellows in the program. Unfortunately, this year's application just closed a week ago, but next year we're going to offer it again, and so it's 2023 we'll offer it again. The idea is to have one mentor for each fellow from Yale and Boehringer Ingelheim. The fellow will be the driver to decide on what research topics to work on, and we'll try to match the best mentors for them. And there will be a joint steering selection committee together to go through their research proposals, their CVs, their background, to select them, and then choose and match them to the right track. The output of the program, they're expected, I think they will be paid with a standard NIH standard fellowship stipend, and the fringe and the insurance and everything. We'll also sponsor them to go to high quality conference and even sponsor them to have the corporate visit if the public health situation allows us to do so. So there are several themes for this year. Every year there will be different themes, but I suspect they will be quite similar to each other. So you can take a closer look. There are 6 themes ranging all the way from machine learning to biomedical imaging, electronic health record, digital health, and omics data analysis, so on and so forth. Let me just pause here and see if there are any questions. If not, I mean, I'll be more than happy to take at the end of the talk as well. All right, so I just thought that the previous fellowship would be great for people who have a mind to work in industry after receiving their trainings. And there will be some degree programs and other type of training programs at Yale. One of them is the computational biology and bioinformatics PhD MS program. We have been running this for years, and there are at least 6 PhD students a year and 3 to 5 postdocs a year offered by the Department of Veterans Affairs Medical Informatics programs. And there's also a Master of Health Science for people with an MD background to do a clinical informatics track. So people who work in the hospital will also be eventually take on the job as a, either chief medical information officer or something. This will be a perfect opportunity for them. There's a new Master of Science degree in the health informatics within the School of Public Health since 2019. Due to the pandemic, we were a little bit slowing down, but still we're aiming to have 3 to 5 master students a year. So these are some basic master's required courses. You can take a look. And I believe most of them are available in Coursera or in some virtual remote way now. And there are some electives in informatics, statistics, and data science. Another way to look at it is these are the courses being offered at the school website. So as mentioned, there will be some short 1-week intense course for people who don't have enough biomedical background to just get those important concepts familiarized to themselves. So we teach them how to do Python, SQL, particularly using examples from the existing biomedical projects, and then visualization, data sharing, machine learning, always good examples, and natural language processing. So the format is in the morning, we teach the concept, but in the afternoon, we have intense lab sessions. The TA and the students ratio will range from 1 to 5, 1 to 6, but we guarantee that most of the questions will be answered. In the past, this course was only offered for Yale students, but I believe we're going to open it up to public soon. So if people are interested, please stay tuned. This is a more detailed breakdown of exactly what's being taught. And we, once we open up to public, we'll make videos, short videos, we'll put it online. Should be a good source for you if you're interested. And there's another course with Professor Smita Krishnami lab on the machine learning for single cell analysis. This is, I believe this course has been offered twice a year to public already, even during the pandemic. So this is more specific, just how to apply machine learning technologies for single cell analysis. As you can tell, quite intense, and they always have a assignment. And if you look for this website, you will see the past course materials available online with both the lecture slides and the lab assignments and answers. So some photo, this is Professor Smita Krishnami. Some photos of our event. I just can't wait to meet in person again. So we also offer some seminars, and there's a distinguished speaker seminar series, there's the digital health seminar series, and there's a single cell research in progress seminar. And we also have a trainee symposium at the end of the year for particular topics. If you know, anyone from here interested to participate in the seminar, you're welcome. And if you'd like to co-host a seminar or some sort of workshop symposium together, we're open for that as well. And in addition to the traditional academic activities, we also open our arms, because we think the more we share the data, the more bigger impact we can make. So particularly with some industry partners and farmers and the technology companies. The joint fellowship I mentioned with Boehringer Ingelheim was one example, but we also like to engage with others. So there will be some industry leaders forums, or they had a Pfizer committed to it. And it could be in the standalone format or being combined with a conference or workshop. We like to have more hackathons, career fairs, innovation workshop, and even start up, incubators for faculties and the students who have brilliant ideas but don't have the time and the bandwidth to take them to the next level. For industry partners, we would also be open to have short courses customized for them for their BD employees as well. So this is one example about a hackathon that's been going on for years on campus. I think is one of the biggest one. This year happened in January 20th, 21st, I believe that weekend. The main theme was about big data and real world evidence. We had a record of students turning on their Zoom and participating. It was the first time we did it via Zoom, but the outcome was amazing. We had Karen DeSalo came over as one of the keynote speakers. She was the, right now she works for Google Health, but she was Assistant Secretary for Health for the ONC, Office of National Coordinator for Health Information and Technology back then during the Obama administration. And we also had Dr. Harlan Krumholz. He's actually one of the steering committee members of the Center for Biomedical Data Science for our center. So we're honored to have him. I was there for the mentor as well. I believe last time I checked, the winner's presentation was still available in YouTube. If anyone was interested, feel free to take a look. It was quite amazing outcome in those areas, medical centers, Internet of Things, clinical trial, epidemiology, and disease modeling. I even found it fascinating and learned a lot from it. So just quickly who we are. This is the center steering committee members. I mentioned the Dr. Harlan Krumholz before. He is a cardiologist, but we also have all the others with expertise ranging all the way from anesthesiology, bioinformatics, and to pediatrics and public health and outcome study, health policy, and so on and so forth. In the end, I'm going to share with some sample publications and projects of some of them, if you're interested. So I figure a lot of students are in the audience. I'd like to share a few slides on something I learned from my professor when I was a student. One of them was about conducting biomedical related research. I'm pretty sure you know all the key steps here. I'm not gonna repeat them. And I would just like to emphasize that when you try to phrase a research proposal and try to always focus on these important questions. And there are two particular tests I'd like to share with you. One is a blood test. So now is the summer, you're probably home with your family. When you have a great research idea, try to go by a non-blood relative and see if they still think it's positive. What we joked about when we're in school is on Christmas dinner table, if your mom and dad said, "Oh, awesome, what a wonderful idea," it may not carry the same weight if you share with a non-blood relative and see if they still get it. Another way to test it is to try to find a 5-year-old, see use the simplest and most straightforward language to explain exactly what you would like to do for your research, and see if he or she gets it, and be able to, maybe they will drill you on all these who, why, how, where kind of questions to help you straighten your mind. And talking about the career prediction, well, most people would like to refer to this quote and just to say it's impossible to see where, how you can predict the future. And there's also a famous diagram about this, where the top line you can see is the intended career path. And then the bottom line is the actual career path for most of the people. And the yellow area is the reason why people drink. So, but for this particular group of audience, I don't think this will ever be a problem. Data science is one of the hottest area right now, one of the most desired field and the needed field for many of the applications we mentioned. So just to be sure that you're in the right place. And even if your career path is slightly different from what you had in mind, just don't be panicked. This is not unusual for anyone who leaves school for years. This is not unusual. As long as you work hard and you keep doing great work, you will get to where you intended to be. Right now, I just said you don't need to drink. I'm showing the picture of drink. There's nothing I'm hinting you right now. I'd just like to come back to the point we mentioned before. While doing the biomedical data related research, there are so many fancy tools and algorithms and models and stuff like that. But fundamentally, what we need to keep in mind is our ultimate goal, which is to improve the human well-being and health. So, people say medicine can be like wine, expensive tools and fancy toys. These are not the real signal of quality. What's most important is what works for a person, what can eventually make the real impact, what's problem is critical you are solving. And I'm a firm believer for precision medicine down the road, and biomedical data science certainly is a powerful tool for that. And another take-home message from me is all the things I learned, the knowledge, the skills, the tools, the technologies, they're very important in finding a job, but they're not the most important thing. Through the education, through school and training, you're shaping your perspective and then your way of thinking things and solving problems and making decisions and being innovative and creative. So I'd like to borrow Albert Einstein's quote, and the imagination is more important than knowledge, which is awfully true. So here's just a quick contact information. Feel free to take a look, and we'll lead you to the center. What I mentioned about the fellowship and the center mission and projects and all the seminars you should be able to find over there. I still have more time, so I like to share, introduce some individual principal investigators if people are interested. And like I mentioned, Mark Gersten, that's remember I shared the scope of a biomedical data science diagram at the very beginning. I'd like to start from the molecular level and work my way up. So Mark is a well-known professor in the field of bioinformatics. He's a frequent publisher in Nature in the Science. His team has more than 40 students and trainees. I think he's a very well-known and respected researcher, both within Yale and beyond. And there are different areas for his team. One of them is design drugs from structural targets. And you can read, I'm not gonna dive in all the details about them, but he's very much into the personal genome characterization by leveraging the computational tool. One of his, I think the Science collection published more than a dozen papers from him in 2018. And this was about using deep learning to improve brain disease prediction. All these diseases we had trouble identifying, understanding, and then making proper detection and prediction. I think just by using deep learning tools, you can tell has a significant improvement in the outcome. Another rising star on campus, I believe he was just promoted to be the associate professor, C.V. Chen, a cancer researcher, and he again another frequent publisher in Cell, Nature, and Science. He also received numerous awards. I think at the very bottom, these are the some examples of the awards he received. He was I don't know, maybe one of the million or at least tens of thousands of applications for this award. He got it as the youngest cancer researcher to receive that ever. He was also a recipient for the Biomedical Innovator awardee, and his work is primarily related to using T-cell for cancer treatment. And here you can see some specific research project he has in his lab. And Jeff Thompson, so we're moving a little bit closer to the School of Public Health. He is engaging in the cancer tree project as well. He also published calculated effect sizes of different mutations in cancer. One of the examples he showed was to find the most significant mutation that could be determining the importance of the oncology. So this was published in the Journal of the National Cancer Institute, and he had a variety of publications along this line. Feel free to visit his website and see the latest results. And Dr. Steve Kleinstein is a professor of pathology, but he has a strong computational background. I think he majored in computer science, and he's the one to bring the high throughput B cell receptor profiling to the campus, and shared as an email signature of human infection and vaccination responses. Here are some sample project he has been working on, capitalizing the recent advances in email profiling. As you can tell, human email profiling has been a major interest for people either within the genetics and then beyond in pathology. And Dr. Sandra Brand, she's an MD and informatician. At the same time, she also has an appointment at the VA Medical Center. What I mentioned before about the degree program, the master's degree program, and the VA informatics postdoc program are all under her leadership. She's the director for the Yale Center for Medical Informatics. She is very interested in two projects. One of them was heart failure prediction, heart failure related treatment, and the other one was using natural language processing to analyze the data and find out the frequently uncoded or undercoded diagnosis in the medical records. Dr. Harlan Krumholz, I already mentioned, he is a very well known as a member of the National Academy of Medicine. He has thousands of papers being published, and he's also voted as the Distinguished Scientist of the American Heart Association. His major accomplishment was in cardiology about the hospital performance. He came up with several famous indexes. One of them was about heart attack from the door to balloon time evaluation. So because of that, you can read some seminal papers he had over there. AMI Care. Nationally, I'd like to share this outcome with you first. Nationally, since 1995 to 2014, which is a couple of decades later, hospitalizations for heart attack have declined by 38% because of his index, and the hospital had to follow that for performance evaluation. Amazing that a single organization of researchers work could impact so many people's lives. And one time, heart attack was one of the major reasons of deaths in the US, but now we have seen significant reduction. 30-day mortality rate for heart attack is at all-time low of 12%. Just one thing, Harlan is the director for the Yale Center for Outcome Research and Evaluation. We call it CORE. Dr. Alan Chao, he's a pediatrician, but he's also the Chief Medical Information Officer for the New Haven Health, Yale New Haven Health Systems. We had 6 hospitals, and I believe there are more hospitals being added to the system on the horizon. He's also a vice president in the hospital. He was one of the first trainees in the Health Informatics Fellowship programs we just mentioned, and has since then launched a very successful career. In one of these projects was about using clinical dashboard, redesign the clinical dashboard, representing the electronic health records and data information to be able to save the cost for the hospital. The estimated savings was in the range of $50 to $60 million ongoing. Hong, yet another key steering committee members for my center. He is the chair of the biostatistics department. He's also a professor of genetics and statistics and data science. Genetics in the School of Medicine, biostats in the School of Public Health at Yale, and statistics and data sciences in the main campus. He has been fundamental to a lot of studies I mentioned before, and a collaborator for all these papers. His team has strong computational and biostatistics backgrounds to help all these biomedical projects to be able to run models and test algorithms and so on and so forth. So I think that's all I have. Just in conclusion, for data scientists, we joke, we let the data talk, just don't argue with me. Data we trust. And here's a model for data scientists. You never know what could power data science. Coffee and free goodies and pizza, particularly New Haven pizza, really can do a lot of magic than you can imagine. And we are just awesome people. And so you are very awesome people too. Hopefully, if you have any questions, just let me know. I think this is the last slide of my talk.